together.
When
Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta. You're watching the World Report. We'll start with a check of the top headlines this hour. The US military has shot down an Iranian drone after it aggressively approached the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. Washington says talks with Iran remain scheduled this week despite the incident. Former US President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton agreed to testify in the congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, allowing them to avoid being found in contempt of court and Congress. Former UK Cabinet Minister Peter Mandelson has quit the House of Lords after leaked emails tied him to Jeffrey Epstein, while British police have opened a criminal probe into the alleged misconduct in public office. US Secretary Marco Rubio met India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar. Both leaders backed the new India-US trade deal and discussed cooperation on critical minerals and energy security. Donald Trump and Colombian President Gustavo Petro met at the White House. Both leaders pledged to strengthen cooperation in the region. US President Donald Trump signed a roughly $1.2 trillion funding bill ending a short federal shutdown after a 217 to 214 House vote. Trump urges Russian President Putin to end the war in Ukraine, saying Moscow kept its one-week pause but resumed attacks on Kyiv. French authorities raided Elon Musk's ex-offices after alleged political interference and deepfakes. Musk calls the raid a political attack. And now on to the top focus, viewers. The US military has shot down an Iranian drone that aggressively approached USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea on hours before two gunboats operated by the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps approached a US flagged tanker in the Strait of Hormuz and threatened to board and seize the ship. Meanwhile, the White House stated that the United States is still planning talks with Iranian officials this week, even after the drone incident. Donald Trump has also stated that the US is negotiating with Iran. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff that Tehran was unlikely to honor any potential agreement on its nuclear program. Retired Major General Sudhakar Ji joins us in this discussion. He is a senior strategic and international affairs expert. Joins us from Jaipur. Sudhakar Ji, thanks very much for joining us, and a very good morning to you. Firstly, of course, one strike has been launched, it's witnessed, but how do you see these happening at a time when both parties were about to come to on the table to negotiate the nuclear program?
Good morning, Kriti. Thank you for inviting me for your show. You see, one has to understand the larger perspective as to what is happening both in the domestic constituency of America, how much of threshold or what threshold the American forces are poised in and around Iran to go in for an offensive against Iran. Are they really meaning a kind of a war to be unleashed against Iran? What is the enhanced capability of Iran? Is Iran anyway showing any signs of restraint? So these are the factors which will take us as to why USA, despite all provocations, it's still showing very prominent signatures to discuss issues across the table. It's a very welcome development. Dialogue is always better than any kind of conflict. At the moment, neither US nor Iran have got appetite. Iran may be saying that if push comes to shove, if they're actually pushed around, then they will be left with no option to give it back nice and properly. Never underestimate Iran. So under the circumstances, my take on the whole issue is that the domestic constituency of America today is neck deep in many issues. Particularly, the most overwhelming one is the Epstein file. It is It is naming anyone and everyone. It is not sparing anybody. Bill Clinton, Elon Musk, you have that commercial secretary also, Lotnik or whatever his name is, and a host of other people. I mean, you name a person, he's there in Epstein file. This is
Yeah.
highly damaging. It will actually break USA. The character of a superpower is going to collapse. It is going to disintegrate.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing, when the morality and the character of a nation is held in question, nothing is left. Superpower is a big thing. It's a very far away objective. So the existence of a nation state will actually have lots of questions. Therefore, it is very worrisome. And if that end state is not being looked at, the near home is there are 25 seats which are falling vacant in Senate. They have to go to elections. Out of 25, if I respect my memory, I think 9 are Democrats. Going by the latest trend, I think 3 or 4 provinces have gone to elections, and they have, all of them, without any exception, have won with hands down margin, thumping majority. Democrats have come back to power. So there is a fear that the Republicans may be gradually slipping away from a very dominating kind of a popularity to a low end kind of a popularity. So that is a bigger threat. Venezuela crisis, tariff crisis, Epstein file, you have handling of immigrants, ICE attacks on the American citizens. There are so many things which are taking place, plus a huge economic debt of 38 trillion. So therefore, the domestic constituency of America does not want America to get involved in any kind of new conflict. And that's why, if you take your mind back to the election campaign, Donald Trump time and again had assured his constituency that he will not trigger or start a new war. Number two, whatever are the ongoing wars, he will bring them to an end. Back to you, Kriti.
All right. Of course, Epstein files is a big scandal that everybody is now talking about. Doesn't have names just from the United States, but from UK and Europe as well. So clearly, big questions being raised on the elites of the world. But as far as the nuclear talks between Iran and US are concerned, do you see Iran meeting the 3 demands of the United States and US then lifting the sanctions that it has imposed?
No, not at all, not at all. Iran. This is my assessment, so I don't want to impose my assessment on anybody else. As a student of geopolitics, I have been joining the dots. I have also been to these countries around, and I know how they function. It's a civilizational empire. It is to be understood. Iran is not like a riff-raff small little country. Iran is not like Venezuela. Iran, you see, 79 to 2026 is a long time, whether
Yeah.
it is Islamic cleric or democratic kind of a modern government, which the Shah regime was trying to bring in, way back in 70s, 60s and 70s. You see, this is a long time to make the structures, the structural integration and the scaffold on which they are surviving today are very, very strong. You may knock off one odd leader here and there or 10 of them, but still there are people to replace them. That is the level, the depth of the human resource inside Iran, and the conviction on which, the ideology on which they are surviving today. You and me, all of us may not like it. It is a Islamic, I would say, Sharia law, which is prevalent in Iran. It is the epicenter of, call it by anything, the proxies which are operating, the Houthis, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, the Hadr al-Saif, and there are so many militias. And the main target is Israel. If within the Israel, what is it that Iran is not going to compromise? Is the main objective of Israeli war has to be understood by one and all. What is the central objective? Is it the mow the grass? No. Is it to change the regime? No. Is it to actually suppress them so much that over a period of time you bring in democracy? No. What is it? Does Israel want to have a extended and expanded role and responsibility in the entire Middle East? They may be, but it is not possible. It is humanly not possible. So what is it that Israel's primary objective, when I say Israel, it is US. The primary objective is the nuclear bomb or the warhead. Do they have a warhead? My reckoning, my understanding, from 2000 onwards, a lot of leading Western media platforms, including the New York Times, they have reported with evidence they have nuclear warhead. So why are you not taking that factoring in? So if they have nuclear warhead, all this is rhetoric and drama going on? I suppose so. So what is it that the Israel will be looking at? They are targeting as of now, notwithstanding what I have shared, that 4,000 kgs of uranium, which is enriched, they want that to be kept out of the boundaries of Iran. Now Iran says, okay, that is acceptable, but they would like to keep it with a ally or a friend, that is Russia. Is that acceptable? I think this is what is going to be discussed. And more than that, is that they want an assurance from Iran that they will not pursue the objective of going in for nuclear warhead anytime after the agreement or discussion or dialogue is completed. So is Iran going to accept a thing like that? I don't think so. With Pakistan sitting as a neighbor with a nuclear warhead and Israel is undeclared nuclear power, you think in the Islamic that Ummah contestation which is taking place between Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Iran today, is Iran going to forego the option of going in for nuclear warhead? Isn't Ukraine a good enough an example? Had Ukraine has had the nuclear warhead, do you think that the Russia would have invaded the way it invaded? I don't think so. So therefore, there are living examples. Iran is going to do skirt around, circumvent all kinds of oppositions, and they will go in for, they will take such kind of course of action, which will provide them opportunities to convert, because one doesn't know the world order. It is so unpredictable today. Today, Donald Trump is saying something, by evening he's changing his stance.
Yeah.
So therefore, in these years of uncertainty, I don't think Iran is going to forego this option of nuclear warhead.
All right. Sure. Sudhakarji, do stay on with us. Let's move on now, viewers. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has also met with Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy in Jerusalem, stressing Israel's uncompromising demands on Hamas and Gaza. Netanyahu has told Witkoff that disarming Hamas and fully demilitarizing the Gaza Strip are top priorities. He emphasized that Israel will complete all its military objectives before starting reconstruction in Gaza, making clear that the Palestinian Authority will not have any role in governing the territory after the conflict. The Prime Minister's office described the meeting as a critical step in coordinating with the United States on post-war plans for Gaza. Sudhakarji continues to stay with us. Sudhakarji, how do you view the developments? Can we say now really progress is being made as far as demilitarizing Hamas and peace in Gaza is concerned?
Brilliant question, Kriti. It's a very tall order. Like in the preceding question, I have answered partly to some extent, I would say.
Yes.
So the issue that needs to be understood is that Turkey is been given one singular responsibility by Donald Trump, Erdogan. Erdogan has been told, come what may, you have to bring the Hamas on the negotiating table after having disarmed. Now, he has got after somehow left, right, center. He has made Hamas to give a commitment, an assuring kind of commitment that they will disarm. Now you tell me, Hamas is nothing people need to understand. It is the political entity. They have a military wing which is called as Al-Qassam. Now Hamas, we all know Hamas as a terrorist, but it has not been recognized as a terrorist organization by United Nations. Although some of the Western countries, including USA, they call it as a terrorist organization. Now, if Hamas has done a particular thing on 7th October 2023, what compelled them to do that? Nobody is asking that question. What forced them? They would have been actually cornered, like if you corner a cat within the four walls of a room, a situation will come when the cat is going to pounce against the aggressor and attack so viciously that it will leave a very enduring, lasting kind of an imprint in the mind and the memory. So that is what exactly is happening. Why did they do what they did on 7th October? That cause has to be understood. That cause has been addressed. Many attempts have been made in the past. Somehow it has not given a lasting solution. And now by saying that the Palestinians will not govern the Gaza or the Palestinian area in times ahead, Is that the lasting solution? I don't think so. Will Hamas, under these conditions, will ever surrender their weapons? I don't think so. They may have given a commitment, but in the heart of their hearts, they know they have to keep the arms in proximity to be used when the criticality arises, because it is the question of survival as much as it is a question of survival for the Israelis. So therefore, what I'm trying to come to is that this process of negotiation and contestation, they will keep rivaling against each other. They will continue. And my take on the whole issue is this Palestine problem will remain an unending kind of eternal challenge for the world order. It will not come to an end. The only way to bring to an end is to be truthful. Israel has to fulfill many obligations, which people are not saying, although I am not saying that the terrorism is to be encouraged. By no means, nobody should accept in the world order. 7th October thing has to be vehemently be denounced, but Israel has got some assurances which it had made from 1967 conflict. Talk about the Gaza Strip, talk about the Sinai Peninsula, talk about the East Jerusalem, talk about the Syrian Heights, Golan Heights, talk about the West Bank. All of them logically, legally, technically was supposed to have been vacated by Israel. It has not done. Gradually, Israel has been expanding. In the West Bank, if you look at the settlement, they are not supposed to have a settlement in West Bank. The number of settlements are actually expanding by the day. So under these conditions, what is the aim and objective, the hidden agenda of America and Israel? So until the hidden agendas are actually split open into limelight, into the public domain, I don't think the negotiation will be truthfully and genuinely progressing ahead in a very systematic manner. So at the moment, the Israel and USA are going in for some kind of a hidden objective. The peace proposal has been mooted without consulting the Palestinians. Palestinians are being clandestinely moved out of Palestinian area or Arab area to a country like South Africa. Now Somaliland is also being looked at. Third and most important thing is they will continue to hammer the proxies and Iran time and again, and so that they're decimated. But the ideology of Iran cannot be decimated. Iran will survive. It will bounce back with even more vigor and strength, because there are many countries who are supporting the existence of Iran in the Middle East as it is. So therefore, to bring a summary of my response to your question is, this process of peace is not going to see the light of the at the end of the tunnel. This is going to be an ongoing process, because there is a deep state involved in America. They want the conflict to go on so the defense industry in America doesn't come to a grinding halt.
Sudhakarji, thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive response indeed. And viewers, we move on now. Recently released US Justice Department files have shed new light on the relationship between renowned American intellectual Noam Chomsky and Jeffrey Epstein. Emails show Chomsky fantasizing about Epstein's Caribbean island and exchanging social invitations. The documents also reveal a 2019 email in which Epstein sought advice from Chomsky on handling public scrutiny. And the files show financial dealings, with Chomsky asking Epstein for advice on a dispute with his children over money. The documents suggest a close personal and professional tie, with Chomsky also reaching out to Epstein to arrange meetings with political figures like Steve Bannon. The latest disclosures complicate Chomsky's earlier claims, where he said his relationship with Epstein was purely financial. Meanwhile, Melinda French Gates has expressed sadness over her ex-husband Bill Gates' name being mentioned in the Epstein files. She has said that Bill and others need to answer for their connections to Epstein, but Bill Gates has denied allegations of any wrongdoing. And now welcome Ross Feingold, political analyst from Taipei, in the discussion here. Ross, thanks very much for joining us. The question that everybody is now asking is, can the US elites, the who's who of the world, really now be trusted by the public and by the systems that they have long used to rule and dominate the capitalist system of Americas?
Certainly, the public has become more and more skeptical of leaders and institutions over the years. I think that's occurred consistent with the rise of the internet, instant information, far more people giving their opinions on different platforms, whether by text or video. So people in the United States and other parts of the world as well have become skeptical of parliaments and governments and media figures. So if that trend continues in the aftermath of these revelations, that certainly won't be a surprise. I think for the individuals involved, more so than the broader group of elites, there's obviously going to be enormous and in some cases permanent reputational damage for some of these individuals.
Right. How difficult is the investigation now going to be, given the names that have surfaced, the muscle and might power that they have? How fair and free can investigation be? Because we're not just talking about individuals from the United States, but also the big leaders, the monarchs of countries in Europe and the UK.
That's a very important question to ask. It does seem at the moment, though, as far as criminal charges in the United States against these individuals who associated over many years with Jeffrey Epstein, at the moment, that does seem to have run into a dead end. There's going to be upcoming testimony in Congress by prominent individuals, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, but that's really unlikely to lead to any criminal charges against the two of them. And certainly they could exercise their right not to answer any questions that would incriminate themselves in any crime. But as far as any of these prominent male friends of Jeffrey Epstein being incriminated in criminal activity with underage women, again, the Department of Justice seems to have really exhausted its investigation. Now, what's certainly possible is investigations into financial wrongdoing if the statute of limitations hasn't expired. Given that we're seeing a lot of interaction between Jeffrey Epstein and well-to-do individuals, including discussions about financial planning. So there might be somewhere to go there for investigators looking at potential criminal charges. And certainly those financial relationships are going to be an area of interest to journalists as well. So I would expect the public to learn more about Jeffrey Epstein's transactional history and who he was dealing with financially. Again, that's also going to be very embarrassing for people who relied on his advice or paid him for consulting services.
All right, Ross, we'll keep this discussion to that for now and move on. Now, viewers, US President Donald Trump has also said that he was working on sanctions, among other things, with Colombia President Gustavo Petro following their meeting in the Oval Office earlier yesterday. Trump said the meeting between the two leaders was very good. Meanwhile, Petro said he and US President Donald Trump talked about concrete problems and about common pathways to solve them during their meeting at the White House. According to Petro, the two men discussed the possibility of exporting Venezuelan gas through Colombia, as well as shared interests in fighting drug trafficking in the region. Let's listen in to the two leaders.
Got along very well. He and I weren't exactly the best of friends, but I wasn't insulted because I never met him. I didn't know him at all. We got along very well, and we're working on that. We're working on some other things too, including sanctions. And we had a very good meeting.
So I
thought he was terrific. He was very good. We got along great.
Básicamente eso, y de lo que dijo Trump en la reunión es que él no cree en sanciones, que no las ve en este caso particular, no las ve racionales. Y yo creo que tiene razón, es lo mismo que yo pienso.
Request Ross to join us back into the discussion here. Ross, what we're seeing is clearly a warming up of the two leaders, especially after all the statements that had come earlier from Petro and now him meeting Trump. Is he really succumbing to pressure? Does Colombia really even have any option other than sitting on the table with Trump?
At the moment, the trend is for countries in Central and South America to cooperate with the Trump administration. That's been a process over the past 1 year. Initially, some countries were more eager to work with President Trump than others, but most countries in the region, with a few exceptions like Brazil is of course a notable one, but countries have come a long way. And it's very difficult to resist, whether it's because the U.S. has influence with regard to trade, with regard to security cooperation, which is important to Colombia. But there's an important thing to keep in mind here, because we've seen this happen a number of times. President Trump might be very, very critical on social media and his public remarks of the leader of another country. Then they meet in person and the meeting goes well and they seem all friendly and smiles. It's what comes after that has to be monitored, because sometimes those relationships continue in a positive way, but sometimes despite a happy meeting, the relationship still reverts to one of tension.
Right. Indeed. Ross, thanks very much for joining us. And viewers, we're now going to move on now. News coming in from Greece, where according to reports, at least 14 migrants have died after their speedboat collided with a Greek Coast Guard vessel off the island of Chios. Greek authorities said the boat was making dangerous maneuvers and a pursuit was underway when the collision occurred. Rescue teams pulled 24 people from the water, including 7 children and a pregnant woman, some seriously injured. 2 Coast Guard officers were also hurt. Officials say others may still be missing. The Hellenic Coast Guard has not yet clarified the exact circumstances of the crash. A large-scale search and rescue operation continued, involving 4 Coast Guard vessels, a civilian boat with divers and a helicopter. Greek authorities said the confirmed death toll initially reported as 4 later rose to 14 as additional bodies were recovered. And now on to some science news. NASA is no longer planning a February launch of the Artemis 2 mission after encountering hydrogen leaks during a fueling test of the Space Launch System. NASA has said that it has completed a wet dress rehearsal for Artemis 2, but determined the rocket will not be ready to launch during the February window, which closes on February 11. NASA added that to allow teams to review data and conduct a second wet dress rehearsal, NASA will target March as the earliest possible launch opportunity for the flight test. Meanwhile, NASA administration and Administrator Jed Isaacman has said that more than 3 years between SLS launches, NASA has fully participated in countering challenges. Isaacman has added that it is precisely why NASA conducts a wet dress rehearsal, as these tests are designed to surface issues before flight and set up launch day with the highest probability of success. Viewers, that's all we have time for. Keep watching News Expert for more news updates from around the world.